All right, so I went ahead and created a new project. You should do the same. And this is what we have. We've seen this many times. So let's go ahead and delete things that we don't need to see, because we're going to start from scratch. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to separate my code into different folders or different packages. So inside of this main package, I'm going to right click, say new, create a package. I'm going to create a model package. This is where we're going to put all the models. In this case, we're just going to have one model, right? That will model after an instance of a node in this case. Okay. And then I'm going to create a new one, another package here, and I'll call this data. This is where we can put data related classes or files. Create a new one, package, and let's put components. So this is where we can put all the components, widgets, and so forth that will be part of our application. And I always like to do this. In this case, we only have one screen, but I still like to create a screen package as such. All right, so inside of a screen package here, I'm going to create a new Kotlin class. And let's just make this a file. Let's call this note screen as such. This is okay. Add to Git. That's just my Git repo. Okay, so we have note screen there. So here I'm just going to have to create. I'm going to say composable, that is. Let's create a function. Call this note screen as such. And there we have it. A note screen is going to be the screen we're going to call somewhere inside of our main activity. So let's construct our note screen. So note screen is going to look like this, right? That is the idea. So we are going to have here an app bar of some sort, top bar with the app name, and then we're going to have all of these widgets, all of these composable. So two text views and a button, and of course later we can add more. All right, let's start at the top. So if we go back to our note screen here, before I even move forward, let's create a preview composable here. So I'm going to say add preview, because I want to preview this composable, and I'm going to say add composable, say fun, and we're going to name this notes screen preview as such. And here I'm just pass notes screen like that. Okay. So this is where the preview. So here is just previewing our screen. Now, one thing I can do also is in our preview here, I can go ahead and say show background. If I say true, it's going to go ahead and show. Let's hover over. It says if true, the composable will use a default background color. All right, so let's start constructing. All right, so first let's go ahead and put a column. I want a column because I know all of these items are going to be inside of a column, right? Everything is in a vertical layout manner. So a column works. Let's give it a modifier here. Give it a padding of about 6 dp. Let's go ahead and import. Good. All right, so what we need to do next is to add this structure here, which is just a top bar. Now, we've seen top bars before. We've seen in the context of scaffold. But remember, top bar, like anything else in Compose, these are composable functions, which means we can actually call them. I don't have to have a scaffold in order to use a top bar. So I'm going to say here, top bar, look at that, right? And you can see it is indeed a composable. First of all, there is this green F to say function, and composable, the white Android there. Droid, I should say. All right, so our top bar requires a title, which we can pass, of course, a lambda, and also requires actions. We can pass them at some point, maybe not now, that's fine, like that. Okay, so in this case here, it's not a lambda itself. That's why it's saying we shouldn't have that lambda, trailing lambda. All right, for our title here, I'm going to say text. Let's pass, let's say text. I could pass just a text like that, but there's another way to do this. For instance, I can say something like this: string resource, and I'm going to say r dot go to string and get the app name like this. Now this is going to have a problem because we need to install, or we need to import our class. So just click import. Let's go ahead and import like that. Voila. So these R class is a class, if you have over, it's a class that has access to resources in our application, right? That means then with R we can go ahead and go to resources, go to drawables, go to map, go to values, and go to strings. So what we are going to do is we're going to go and get this app.name or app_name, which is going to be JetNote or whatever title you've given it. Okay, so this is another way of getting things from our string resource file. So string dot, see, now I have access to app name like this. So for actions here, I can actually add an icon as such. Say icons. Round it as an option. And I can go ahead and say, let's find something like notification, for instance. Doesn't matter really. We just want to see something there. Okay, so in this case here, I'm just going to go for description. You can say icon. All right. Let's go ahead and preview real quick here to see what's going on. All right, so there we go. We have our notes there. Looks really good. We have our top bar and we have that icon there. This is just a placeholder. It doesn't really matter. But okay, so it's looking really good. And the other thing we can do, we can actually change the background color of these top bars. If you hover over, you will see that we have the background color property or argument we can pass. So that's going to be after our actions. I'm going to go ahead and say enter background color. And for the color here, I'm going to say color. I already have the color. So I'm going to put an hex color, so 0x, then FF, as such DA, DFE, 3 like this. And the beauty also, remember that this doesn't matter, right? So you can actually click here and start changing the colors to your liking. But this is the color that I found to be decently okay. I may change it, doesn't matter. Okay, so save this. If you go ahead and refresh, you can see now we should have something different. Okay, there we go. Very subtle. So after we have put together the top bar, so it ends here. Now at the bottom here, that's where we're going to add this structure here, which is going to be these two text fields and button. Say content like this. So what I'm going to do is, let's go ahead and put inside of a column, right? And let's pass a modifier as such. And we want fill max width as such. And I want to get also the horizontal alignment to alignment center horizontal as such. Okay, so inside here we go. Now it's time. Now we're going to add these two. Now we're going to add first. So we're going to go ahead and add a text field as such. Now we can go ahead, of course, and put the text field right away directly here. But what we're going to do is we're going to compartmentalize everything, put things into different classes or folders, or in this case packages, to make it even better. Okay, so I'm going to say Kotlin class here is just going to be a file. Let's call this node components as such. And inside here, I'm going to just add a composable like this real quick. And then I'm going to create a function called note input text. So this is just a way for us to separate everything. And also you notice we have two of them, right? So we have for the title and we have another one for the notes. So this will be great because then we could just call this composable a few times that we want. So we can, that way we don't have to repeat ourselves, okay, inside of a note here. So first, let's go ahead and pass a modifier. Make sure we get the correct modifier, which is the compose, right? And I'm going to say modifier, just to say that we are not, just to say that this is an optional parameter. And then let's pass text. And then let's pass the text. That'll be a string. Let's pass the label. Also a string. Max line. It's going to be an int. And it's going to be 1 as default value. And then on text change, right, we're going to expect to pass a string value and return unit as such. Okay. On IME action, like that, we are just going to pass nothing and return unit, and just also say that we don't require to be passed at all as an argument. Okay, so now inside we're going to create the text field. So I'm going to say text field, and then let's go ahead and start constructing our text field. So the first one is the value. So in this case, let's put this a new line. For our value here, we're going to pass the text, okay, which is what we're passing there. On value change, we're going to pass on text change, and we're going to pass, of course, on text change like that. And then we're going to continue. Let's say for colors, I'm going to change something here. In this case, because it's a text field, I'm going to use the text field default. Let's see, text field default as such, and text field colors. All right. And then inside here, I can pass, for instance, the background color. I'm going to make transparent, so color transparent. And then I'm going to pass max lines, just pass max lines that the user will be passing when we use this. For the label, it expects, as you can see, a lambda, right, a function. So I'm just going to say for the lambda here, I'm going to pass a text, and I'm going to pass the label, okay. And then I'm going to pass keyboard options, and I'm going to say keyboard options, right? Default, I'm going to just say copy. In this case, I'm extending a few things here. So for the IME action, right, I'm going to say IME action, we want to show done. Okay, go back. So these is supposed to be keyboard options, not actions. There we go. All right, so next I'm going to say keyboard now actions. Pass keyboard actions. So on done, what I want to happen, put a lambda here. When it's done, we're going to say on IM action that we passed. And then here we want to hide the keyboard. In order for us to hide the keyboard, we need to get the actual controller. So at the top, I'm going to say val keyboard controller as such, and I'm going to say local soft keyboard controller long class, and say current. So this is going to get the current. So this is going to get our software. So this is going to get the keyboard controller so that we can use it. Now we're going to have an issue here. If you have over, it's going to say this API is experimental and is likely to change in the future. Again, this just says that things may change in the future because Compose is still evolving. it's trying to warn us, and we have to add this experimental compose UI annotation. Okay, so click there and you can see there it is. Okay, so now we can use it. So on that action, we're going to say keyboard controller.hide. Okay, this is going to be nullable, so we need to unwrap like this. Okay. And we are going to pass the modifier as you see there. So what we're doing here again, we're creating this composable that is very flexible, customizable. We can then just call node input text, text, like that, and pass some of these arguments there to create a text field. So now if we go back to our node screen, it's very easy. Inside of our column here, we can just say node input text, and we can pass some of the parameters. Now, what do we want to pass here? First, let's go ahead. I'm just going to say hello, and for a label, also hello, so we can see something. And for on change, on text change, I'm just pass an empty like this. I'm going to also have to add experimental compose UI, right? Like this for this to work. Let's go ahead and refresh this. So hopefully we can at least see. Voila. Again, every time we use the experimental APIs, anywhere we are calling that function, we need to also add that. So that's the contract. Let's refresh again. And there you have it. It looks really good. We have hello, hello. Of course, that's not what we want, but at least we see we do have a text field.